All right, what do we
So,
got next up on the docket?
well, we're not away from the team quite yet because we went off on a big tangent. We got to talk about Jake Voracek.
Yes.
There's updates from the team. I didn't get a chance to read any of like the athletic articles or anything surrounding it, but he
Hmm.
did come out in a media availability the other day.
Yes.
He's definitively out for the rest of the season, and I think we are needing to. Your prediction is getting more correct by the day,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I we take for a league that doesn't take concussions seriously.
Mhm.
Uh the fans do. We
Yes.
do. And players need to as well.
Hmm.
I read a little bit of Portsline's article and listened to some of the things Jakub Voracek said.
So you did
There
read
was
something. Okay.
there was one thing that Voracek said that I found both interesting and unbelievably scary.
Which is.
He said over the course of his career,
Hmm.
he has had on document 8 concussions.
Oh my
And he
God.
said it, it gets worse. Okay. On document, 8 concussions.
Uh huh.
He said there's also been a few in there where he's like, I never got it checked, but maybe I got a little rattled,
Uh.
or
Uh
something like
huh.
that. So there's only 8 on record.
Uh huh.
Here's what's really scary.
Okay. Go.
Let's read from
I.
2012-13, the lockout season. So that was the season where
Yes.
it was 48 games.
48 games. Yes.
Let me read out games played to you. 48 out of 48.
Okay.
82 of 82.
Okay.
82 of 82.
Okay.
73 of 82.
Not too
82
bad.
of 82. 82 of 82. 78 of 82. 69 of 69.
He's played in almost everything.
He played through a lot of concussions. He barely missed any time in his career with the Philadelphia Flyers. That's not even mentioning his first season with the Flyers. He played 78 of 82.
Oh my God.
So
And
8
the.
career concussions. He, I thought I read a stat, and
Mhm.
I didn't check it, but it sounds right to me. He missed 20 games with the Flyers in his career in Philadelphia.
we we addressed Sid's concussions last show when we
Yes.
first talked about this, and just how much time he missed so much significant time. We thought he was done,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Back in 11 and 12, because not only was it concussions, but he had the post concussion syndrome, I believe.
Yeah, and that adds to it.
That like I remember back to it, like I didn't know anything about it. I was 11 years old when
Right.
that all
Right.
happened.
Yes.
And I remember just like reading up on it one day because I was doing a report in like an English class. And I
Hmm.
remember just being like, my God, this is awful.
It's so scary.
Unbelievably scary. I remember reading a whole bunch of stuff on it and being like, this dude that I really, really like, Sidney
Yeah.
Crosby, might not ever play again.
Yeah. And and the other guy that comes to mind for me that is like quintessential when it
Savard.
comes to concussions
Yeah.
for me,
Hmm.
it's not Savard, it's Paul Correa.
Yeah, those two I think are, you know, I don't want to say poster childs, but like there's two of the main guys that you think of because it affected them so much. And
Yeah,
the reason I think of Savard is A, because it ended his career, but
yes.
also B, just hearing some of the really, really like chilling stories about
Yes.
his life post career and how it affects him in his day-to-day life. And it just makes me more angry that a commissioner of a league like this can see those stories
and brush off concussions like they don't exist.
Yeah.
And it's scary for someone like me too. I hate bringing my personal life into this as much as I do, but I do it because it's what I can base things off of.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned my epilepsy last episode when we were talking about Rachel Dory. I also have, and this is just medical. I have a couple of shunts in my body. And for those of you that don't know what a shunt is, basically it's a filter, like it's a fluid filter,
Yeah,
right?
I actually didn't know. So you're teaching me right now.
It's because I was premature. I had hydrocephalus, and that means there's a lot of fluid, excess fluid, and that doesn't flow correctly, and it builds up in your brain and in your body.
Okay.
And so I actually have two shunts. I have one in the back of my head for my brain, and then I have one in my spinal column.
Okay.
So and that's why I can't play contact sports. So if I ever wanted to play hockey, I medically cannot.
Right.
And I can't join the military. I can't do a lot of those kinds of things because of my medical history. And that's what makes concussions so scary for someone like me. And it's if I ever had that, if I ever went through a concussion just from any physical labor from a job,
even just banging your head on a door.
Yeah. It's really fucking scary, and it worries the hell out of me.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was that talked about it. It may have been about Savard, but I remember listening to it may have been Kipper Bourne. I was listening to them talking about concussions and how there was a player who was really struggling post-career with their concussion history and the brain trauma they had gone through. And they spent a lot of time in dark rooms, didn't really have much of a social life. And as they slowly recovered and got back into real life, they started to readjust. And then one day they hit their head on a door and just went right back to where they were.
Oh.
And I can't imagine what that's like. You can't even bump into something
to relapse that bad, because that's what happens with your brain and your skull. That's just how how do I say it? That's how important this thing up here is.
Yes. Yeah. I know that one of the questions that Blue Jackets fans will have about this, that I think is a fair question, is how does this
affect him post-career?
Well, I was
or thinking affect him now?
How does this affect the Blue Jackets in terms of salary cap?
Oh, just the team and the set, yeah.
And that's a good, fair question, and it's an understandable question when looking at the future. And we will have those discussions further down the line.
We can talk about that a little bit later
any
in the
other
season.
Time.
We can bring somebody on to talk about that.
Yeah.
Something
we have to address how scary this is and how much we're thinking about Jakub Voracek right now.
How much we're thinking about Jake and just trying to live his life and recover after this.
And he's had a hell of a career. Hell of a career.
If this does, and it probably will, if this is career ending, whether he comes back into the league as an advisor or coach or whatever, whether that be in Columbus, whether that be in Philly, whatever he does post-career, hockey-wise or not, the dude needs to pursue a good life after this.
Yeah. He deserves a good life. Yeah. It's I'm wishing nothing but the best for him, because it's tough. I've had a concussion before. Not fun to go through. I can tell you that.
I'm sure.
I can't imagine what it's like to have 8 and have to end your freaking career over it.
Imagine being because we talk about, because the skaters ones are, scary enough because you're wearing less.
Yeah.
To protect yourself. goalie ones need more attention too.
Mm-hmm.
Because even like the back, right? The back padding to attach your helmet isn't that much, is it?
No. And that's not an area where you get hit a lot. I've never been hit there.
Okay.
It rarely
Right.
happens, but things happen in the sport. Just because it doesn't happen often doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right.
Yeah, just the league in general needs to take concussions more seriously. And with saying that, he's a warrior, and
He's
it's not unnoticed by
yes.
me that I think there needs to be a discussion about playing through injuries.
Yes. And I mean, this goes for any story where we glorify playing through injuries like this, whether that's Carlson's cup run
Yeah.
with the broken foot,
And
whether that's McDavid rehabbing his back injury like a mutant.
yeah, or people right now are just killing Jackson Smith and Jigba on Twitter, receiver for Ohio State, because he's not going to play in their playoff game, and he's only played in 3 games this season, and he's had the hamstring injury, and people are like, "Oh, you're not going to play through it," and it's like, we need to have a discussion about some of these players playing through injuries. There are some injuries that I think if a player feels comfortable playing through, they should be given the choice to do it. But
Yes.
concussions are one of those that I don't care how mild they are.
You need to sit.
You got to sit. You got to get cleared. And I don't mean you're cleared enough to play. No, I want these players to play because it's over. It's gone. You are good to go.
You are 200%.
Yes.
It's like
The Dolphins with Tua earlier this year.
Oh my
One of the
God.
scariest images ever is him on the ground with his fingers craning.
And obviously I'm happy that the vast majority of all football fans were praying up for Tua. That was a seizure.
Yes. Yeah.
That was
yes.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
And that was the one prior was also a collapse, like it was a neurological issue.
Yes. Stumbling around on the field after that hit against the Bills. Literally 4 days prior.
It just makes me so mad. It pisses me off to no end seeing the fans that were like, "Oh, he's fine. He'll be fine." No, he won't.
Yeah. There's a lot of
don't just throw him right back in there.
There's a lot of injuries we need to take more seriously as fans of sports, and we need to be more understanding of players. Players need to be more understanding of these injuries and take care of themselves. And at the absolute top of that list are head injuries.
Yes. And let me, as we're coming out of this, first of all, one more time, congrats to Kirill Marchenko for making his debut today, because he's living the dream, and we've been waiting on this kid for a while.
Same with Tim Burney, and best of luck moving forward to Jakub Voracek.
Best of luck to Jake in his recovery and whatever he has coming to him next. And I do want to direct people to a bigger source than us. If you haven't already, go watch a couple. I can't link them exactly. I don't know if you can find them and like post it. We can pin a comment. Maybe we can pin a comment or something like that, linking to a couple of episodes of SDPN's show Agent Provocateur.
Right,
about
talk
concussions.
About concussions. Yeah.
Because Allan Walsh is such a huge proponent in the discussion of concussions in the NHL.
Yeah. And I give him a lot of props for that.
Yes.
It's not easy, especially as a player agent, where you have so much money on the line for yourself in your career, to
let alone having the
speak out against
the
league
has.
As much as he does, that he represents in a way.
And the clientele that he has. He has a lot of huge players under his management, under his watch.
And this is as legit of an agent as you're going to find in the National Hockey League, and he has no issue going at this league.
And there are two agents that come to mind with that. And I know Allan is blatant.
Yeah.
In his criticisms, like he will actively
he will criticize a team or a league. He will criticize Gary Bettman.
It's
he
amazing
will
watching.
through
Yes,
Marc-Andre.
I will put a sword through. That's a throwback.
Yeah, it really is.
Um,
Throwback to when I didn't really know who Allan Walsh was.
I know this is how most people found out about who Allan Walsh is. And it's him and Dan Milstein that come to mind for me as notable player agents.
Yes.
Usually Milstein is just because he has like the majority of the European clients, but aside, we'll pin a comment with a few a couple primary AP episodes about concussions. And congrats to Krill, congrats to Timmy, and good luck to Jake.